All right, we are live at 107. That's so great to be with you, brother. Welcome, Jordan. So glad to have you, and glad to be with you today on this wonderful conversation. Um, so, everybody, welcome to Rise Up Evolutionary Conversations from the Emerging Paradigm. And if there's one person that I know is living in the emerging paradigm, it's Jordan River. I'm so grateful to be here with you. In case you don't know who you are viewing, everyone, you are viewing the amazing and my dear friend Jordan, who started Spirit Science in 2011. And it was his love of animation that harmonized with his spiritual awakening, which began at the end of 2010. Originally, the Spirit Science series started as an open-hearted intention to make cartoons about his newfound passion for spirituality and to share those discoveries with the world in a way that was easy to understand. Jordan would have never guessed that Spirit Science would have impacted as many people as it did, and that those simple cartoons um, would touch the hearts of millions, truly millions of people, and souls ready to share in an amazing world that we're all part of. And as it all it took was a spark of light, and that was how I would describe Jordan, as a spark of light, a brilliant spark of light. So I'm super excited to be here with you today, brother. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, I first want to talk to you about rhythmia a little bit, and I want to find out about you and about spirit science. But first, I want to know if you could share with everybody your experiences at rhythmia and sort of how it's continued to impact your life.
Yeah, to try and describe all of my experiences at Rhythmia in a simple way, it's like they're too innumerable to count. But like every single time I go to Rhythmia, my life just evolves and transforms in really beautiful ways, and I'm blown away every single time, not just by what happens, within me, but like the testimonials and stories that other people share while they're there is absolutely profound. And like just Rhythmia, I mean, Rhythmia has my heart forever. I love it. It is such a beautiful, sacred nexus of transformation that it's an honor to be able to collaborate and work with them, you, Jerry, the whole, everyone there. It's just such a sacred, beautiful environment. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I
How,
could get into specific stories if you like. I mean, there's so many, and they're
well,
all
like
so beautiful.
maybe what the impact on your life is, how those experiences are continuing to unfold for
Yeah, so I think without Rhythmia, like I definitely would still be on this path, but I would probably be like years and years behind in my evolution. Like the what happened from Rhythmia was like all of this energetic gunk and karma and stuff that I just accumulated through my life and some traumas that I'd had and a lot of just suffering, I guess, really just got cleared up. It was especially in like even just the first trip, but they do just build on each other every time that you go. It continues to um, go deeper and farther. But even just that very first trip, I remember just like clearing through so much stuff that was within me, and it like clarified my mind and my purpose and my intention and my um, just getting me back really on a clear track to be able to do the work that I'm doing now.
you.
It's oh gosh, I mean, yeah, it's like we're all on that spiritual journey, and a lot of this, well, yeah, and for those who are really consciously on the spiritual journey, there's often that intention of finding healing and resolving past traumas and working through, whether it's addictions or diseases and stuff like that. And there really is so many ways that we can go about doing that work, right? Like doing fasting and meditation over long periods of time and everything like that. But like the plant medicine and rhythmia and like what is offered there is like, here, do like a lifetime worth of work in like 4 days, and it condenses that into this really profound, week long experience that just changes your life forever. And for me, yeah, it was just like accelerating my motion and really moving things forward, just like exponentially so that I could reach my goals and live my dreams without all of this other baggage that I was carrying with me from stuff that happened in my life prior to that.
Thank you for that beautiful share around that. What's really interesting to me is you said, all the baggage, all of the trauma, all of the challenges that you had in your life, things that were holding you back. But at the same time, you were pretty accomplished when you came to Rhythmia. Like, your life wasn't necessarily holding you back. So I'm really interested because sometimes I do hear people say, "Well, I don't have any trauma. I don't have that." Like, what would you say to people? Obviously, because you had reached a certain level of facility in your life where you were able to, you weren't being stymied. You were still self-expressing and doing a great job. So what would you say to those folks that don't think they have anything necessarily that needs to be worked on? Yeah, I got stuff to work on, but I have no big serious traumas. I don't have addiction. Maybe I don't need to do plant medicine.
Yeah. We don't even, there's so much locked in our subconscious. Like, that whole like theory or that sort of myth that's out there of like, you only use like 5% of your brain or 10% of your brain.
Right. Is it a myth?
It is kind of a myth. But it's just not, I think, understood very well, because the truth is that our conscious mind is really only between 1 and 5, 6, 7%, maybe 10 on a really good day. But for the most part, it's like 90+% of our consciousness is subconscious and unconscious programming and stuff that's locked inside of us that we don't even know is there. And so I remember it was the third night of my first trip to Rhythmia that I had such a profound like healing of this. It was like this. I don't know how to describe it. Like a kind of like a monster head that was relative to. It looked like this Titan head from this show Attack on Titan. I don't know if you've heard of it. It doesn't really matter. But it was like this monster head that was like eating my belly, and I was like, "What is this thing?" And the more that I worked with it, it kind of like mushed up and then dissolved into me, and it was like this part of my ego that was clinging to this old perception of myself, kind of thing. And the thing was, is like I didn't even know that it was there before. I couldn't even feel it. And then once it was like dissolved and was integrated into myself, I had this purging, and I was amazed. It was like this just deep healing that was starting to happen around the way that I sort of self-identified. And that just spanning back from childhood stuff and everything. And so I remember going up, they called for the second drink, and I went up to the shaman and I was like, this shit's amazing. Like, I was sick and I didn't even know it. And I think that's really what I would say to people who maybe are like skeptical of like, I don't know that I need it. It's like, you don't even know how much help that how much healing you can actually accomplish if you just surrender to it and embrace it, because there is so much within us that it's like maybe you were yelled at once by a parent when you were a child, and this could have profoundly impacted your life and how you experienced yourself and your family dynamic and everything like this. Maybe made you really arrogant or introverted or whatever, right? Like all the different ways that it could go. And then we just think of it as second nature. We think like, oh, I am just an introvert, and we identify with that. But it's like, well, actually, it's your environment that caused you to be that way. And if you just surrender to embrace like your soul, on this like deep spiritual level, you might find a whole nother side of yourself that's far more maybe outgoing or humble or this or that, or loving or compassionate towards others in a way that you couldn't even see before, because it was all in your subconscious.
I think it's a beautiful explanation. I would add to that first of all, you're so right. The neural pathways that have been developed based on our past experiences and how just from a psychological perspective, right? Like, we are so hemmed in by our past experiences. So often we don't even realize how much of the past we're reacting to something based on it reminded us of something similar. We're not even conscious of this. It's a neural pathway that triggers and says, "Oh, this is a similar situation," and brings forth all of those old ways of being. So, I mean, I'm in complete agreement with you on the sort of iceberg, right? The 10% of our awareness of what's impacting our behaviors, and the 90% of the subconscious that's underneath. I also would add to that we're talking about something that's eternal and infinite, and those are two concepts that we just don't have a lot of facility wrapping our minds around. I mean, like eternal, without beginning, never was a prime mover, nothing before, right? Like, so if we take part of that in our unfoldment in on our spiritual path, is coming to terms and harmonizing that our eternal nature, well, then it's infinite, right? Like, there's a lot. Like, there's never a point where we've arrived, so we can always go a little deeper. I would just add that piece, right? But I'm, really, really interested in, first of all, like, let's just talk about spirit science, right? Like, what you have accomplished, your team. I know you have an amazing team that works with you, but this is your vision that has resonated with people on such a profound level, millions and millions of people, and that's such a remarkable thing. So I really am interested to know how you moved. Like, what were you doing before? What were you doing in 2009, 2008? Like, I know that was, you were really young, but like, was there a point, you said you had an awakening in 2010. Was there a point where you said, okay, I've had this awakening, and now I have this vision, but I'm hemmed in by my current situation. I can't quite see how to get from where I am now to the vision. And was there that difference? And what principles did you rely on? What carried you there? How did you get over? How did you find that bridge? That was a long question, but what do you think?
Definitely. So before my spiritual awakening, like and maybe in some way, like spirit was, moving through me to like set me up for this later on. Like maybe this was some sort of karmic destiny or something. But I first started making cartoons when I was 12 years old, and I loved cartoons. Like I started making flip books in the side of a dictionary in like grade 6, right? And then discovered and learned about Macromedia, Flash, and like making these softwares to making cartoons on the computer. So between the ages of like 12 and like 19, I spent almost all of my spare time. When I wasn't doing homework for school, I was making cartoons or sometimes like playing video games. But for the most part, like cartoons was like the thing that I was about. And it was just such a fun, I don't know, there's something really special to me about bringing stories and characters to life. Like drawing a picture is like, that's cool, but then what do you do with it? But for me, it's like being able to draw that character over and over and make them move and then voice act and give them a voice and stuff. It was just so exciting. So I did that. I've been doing that forever. And then, it was like at the tail end of 2010, a couple of things happened. One was that I met some people who introduced me to The Secret, who introduced me to chakras and Reiki and energy and crystals. And I was like, this is very fascinating. Why hasn't anybody talked about this before? Like, it was just like, I've never heard of anything to do with any of this in my entire life. Or at least if I did, it was like banner blindness. I couldn't see it, like I wasn't able to receive it. So after that introduction, I started like learning and exploring a little bit. And then very shortly thereafter, within a couple of weeks of that introduction, I had this like cannabis plant medicine awakening, because I had just started using cannabis maybe in the last year. And I think my main interest in it was that it was really helping me to calm down, because I was really finding myself very tense, just in school and in college and very end of high school or in between high school and college, like just feeling kind of out of place. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really have words to describe it. I just was like, oh, these people introduced me to cannabis. Oh, this is really helpful. I don't know exactly what this is, but it's really, really helpful. And I had this experience where it was kind of like a little like micro ayahuasca journey, where I was in my friend's car having some cannabis after college one day. This was like towards like right before everyone went on break for the holidays, and I remember just like, I was sitting there kind of, I just smoked maybe 5-10 minutes earlier, and then suddenly, like out of nowhere, it was as if I like was taken from my body or lifted from my body, or just like the physical dimension disappeared, and I was in this like void, and I could see how it was like everything in creation, the whole universe, every thought, every feeling, every planet, every star was all connected to a singular point, and it was just like this intrinsic understanding of unity, like a giant web coming out of one, and I and everything was a part of this web, and it was so profound and impactful, and it was like it was as if I was there forever, but also it was over in an instant. It was just like this flash that lasted forever and no time
I know
at all.
What you're talking
and suddenly I was back in my body like a different person. Like I just had this fundamentally different understanding of myself and life and everything. And I just freaked out in the car to my friend. I was like, "Oh my God, I understand everything!" And she's like, "Oh, you must have inhaled for the first time, huh?" And I'm like, "No, like this is not what's happening." But like she probably thought I was crazy, and that's fine. But after that day, like all of the things that I was researching just like got I became just infinitely more interested in it, and I just went really deep into all of these subjects, from astral projection to just spiritual, chakras and quantum physics and what the bleep do we know, I was going through all of that material and stuff. And then actually it was my mom who, I was just, I don't know, I was reading about lucid dreaming or something, and she comes by me one day. I'm in the living room, and she drops this book on my lap, and she's like, "I think you would like this." And it was The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life by Drunvalo Melchizedek. And I was just like, I opened it up and I read the first page, and it was about some ancient, cavern underneath the Sphinx that holds the records of all of humanity and everything. And I was like, "You've had this my entire life, and you've never shared it before?" I was just kind of like, what's the deal? And she's like, "Well, I had to wait until you, like were aware on this path yourself. Like, I didn't feel like I could force that on you or anything like that." And I'm like, "Okay, but like I've been struggling through life. Like if I knew about meditation before this, like I would, it would have been such a big thing would have been so helpful." And she was like, "Well, you probably wouldn't have accepted it, and even if you did, people would have really probably made fun of you a lot for talking about it." And that was her story, is that like she became very spiritual, and she found that a lot of people very, just discriminated against it. So to kind of protect herself, she just kind of closed off and didn't. She had, her spiritual journey, but she wasn't actively talking about it with anyone, including her kids. And so I humbly respected that decision, but still went deep into that book. And Spirit Science was born probably like 3.5, 4 months later, because I was just like so interested and invested in all of it. And the concept of Spirit Science just like merged out of like the animation, some inspiration from a few other videos online on YouTube, and then all the spiritual stuff, and it just came into being, and here we are.
So was there a time where there was a tension between like, "Oh, I'm stuck in college and I just really want to do this," or I'm stuck in this job and I really wish that all I had to do was animation? Was there a time when there was a tension there, or did it just sort of seamlessly flow for you?
No, it was really easy. I think I have maybe it's my like, people say, because I'm a Taurus that I'm very stubborn. So I didn't really have that conflict. In fact, I started embedding spiritual stuff into into my schoolwork, into like I animated. There was this one video that I had to do for college. That mixed like some 2D animation and 3D animation and all this stuff, and I put like this, it was like this adventure into this, crashed space station in the middle of a asteroid belt somewhere in the middle of space or whatever, and they like went into the spaceship, and there's this Merkaba that's like spinning, and it was fully animated. There's particle effects and stuff, and they're fully like, oh, the Merkaba, like the secrets of time and space. Like it's this really old, funny video. But yeah, no, that wasn't really a problem. And actually, I had another assignment where I was supposed to like talk about my life, and I didn't really fully understand, or maybe just wasn't paying attention to the assignment because I was supposed to put it into a video. And if I had put it into a video, that would have actually probably become Spirit Science Episode 1. But instead, it was like a really great script, and I ended up just reading it to the class, and I went first. And afterwards, everyone was like, where was the video? Because everyone else went up afterwards and presented and played their video, and I was like, oh, I guess I did that wrong. But yeah, like it was a very seamless merging of my just the spiritual stuff, and the schoolwork wasn't a problem. And actually, I had recently quit my job I was working at a movie theater. It was the only job I've ever had where I didn't work for myself, I guess.
Wow.
Was working for this movie theater.
You've only worked for one other job, working for somebody else.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Amazing. And so I didn't really. Oh, sorry, did I cut you off there?
No. I was just saying that's amazing. Like,
really
thanks.
Cool. Yeah, and so I had previously quit my job sometime in the last year, and so I was actually making video games online. I was making these like little cartoon video games for, like there's like Newgrounds and Flash Portal or whatever, like these different websites. And that was bringing in a little bit of a commission on, for money and stuff like that. So like advertising revenue. So I was sort of making a little bit of money, but it was very easy to just be like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Spirituality is far more important, and just going fully down that rabbit hole.
And it just took off. I mean, like literally, it sounds like So I'm super interested in since the transition was so easy. You state that your mission is to support people in their personal and spiritual evolution by providing a safe and sacred space to explore and experience their own spirituality. Where did that mission? And I actually. Really quickly before I finish that question, one of the guests Vanessa asked about the book. Was it Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life?
That's correct.
Okay, and the author?
Is Drumvalo Melchizedek.
Okay, we're just going to leave it at that. Just, Vanessa, just, Google Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life.
You'll find it, yeah. No, you'll definitely find it, looking that up.
So tell me how that mission, the mission of of supporting people in their own spiritual growth and development, and providing a safe place for them to explore that in their own evolution. How did that come forth for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really evolved over time in terms of the scope of what spirit science is and offers, I guess. Originally it was just YouTube. I didn't even have a website. And so things have really changed, but the initial intention behind the cartoons were, wow, if everyone knew this stuff, the world would change so quickly. And that was pretty much it. It was just like this very simple, I have to make this because it's changed my life so much, and I feel like it would really affect other people if they knew about it. And I felt like since I'd never heard about it, maybe other people didn't either, right? And so that was pretty much it. Over time, I think it's probably simplified just in the nature of like spirit science is really about the evolution of consciousness,
yes.
and supporting everybody in whatever way that they're wherever they're at, to really just embody the highest expression of their soul. And over time, it's like with the addition of a website, and then with articles, and then Facebook page and Instagram and these kinds of things, it's really about sharing that kind of that resonant content that maybe helps people with finding themselves, getting through their day in like an uplifting, positive way, looking at the world in a new way. And even now, like we've just recently in the last year have launched a mystery school. And so this is like an actual platform like that has courses and community and like live events. We do 6 live events every month, and inviting people to come and really participate and engage with each other and go deeper, because you can only go so deep with YouTube. I mean, you can explain everything, but there's no place for like that one-on-one or the community working together, talking with people, right? So that's what we created with Spirit Mysteries, is the other side of that coin, both to go deeper in workshops and stuff, but then we have both like community events for people to just engage and talk with each other, as well as we actually just brought on a psychologist to do one-on-one work, so that we'll actually be able to do, like, if someone's going through some stuff, that we'll have like a very, resonant spiritual teacher, or a spiritual guide who can also be there from a psychological sense, because they have taken that, that training, and can help people work through their stuff as well. So we're trying to like hit every level, like from the widest thing with just our videos that we post 2 or 3 videos a week, but also having like the closer, tight-knit like community environment there.
Well, so since things were so seamless for you in terms of moving, right, from once you had this sort of awakening to actually expressing yourself so beautifully, right, as the awakening, tell me about some of the failures that you've had, and I asked that question from like the failures that you most cherish, some things that were really, really, there were pearls. Like if you knew before, you wouldn't have wanted to go through it, but on the other side, you're like, oh, I got this out of that experience.
Yeah. Well, I will say, like, if I could time travel and go, back to 2011 and do it all over again, I'd probably make a lot less mistakes if I could keep my memories.
Right.
Like, if I couldn't keep my memories, then I'm very, very happy where I am here. But yeah, like, this is actually one of the reasons why Rhythmia was so valuable, because it helped clear up a lot of those mistakes and find a lot of the healing with, the stuff that happened. But I think one of the biggest challenges for me was that when I first started Spirit Science, I had a lot of people saying, like, a lot of comments, like, if you ever make money from this, you're a sellout and we hate you, and you're really, you should, you can't make money off of this, or else, like, it's just like doomsday.
Oh, okay. So what is your response to that? I mean, I have a whole response to that from a spiritual perspective. Yeah, I want to hear what your response is.
Well, I have a new response now, but when I first, way back then, I was like, totally, I don't want to be a business guy. I don't want to have a company. I just want to make videos. Like, that was like the bottom line for me. The challenge was that over time, as Spirit Science grew, there was a necessity of like, look, I'm going to have to make some resources somehow, because if I don't, I have to go get a job, and then I can't do Spirit Science full time. But I want to do Spirit Science full time, so I'm going to have to integrate here. And the challenge for me was that I would give up my power over and over again to other people who said that they had my best interests at heart, when maybe, they thought they did, maybe in many cases, but maybe, like, it ultimately led to a failure of whatever we tried to create together, because I would feel more and more disconnected from from Spirit Science, as I was steered in other directions by other people who were in more of like that management CEO position. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I don't even know where my place is here. And they would start telling me what to do. And I would feel kind of lost in the experience. So that's one of the big things that happened, and probably the biggest failure was this, like, continually giving away my power, my authority as like the creator of Spirit Science, the steering the ship. Like I felt like I was kicked below deck to swab the decks. I don't know if this is a ship metaphor or whatever, right? But like I stopped
kicked below deck to clean the bilge.
Yeah, that one. I just ended up like doing things that I didn't really want to be doing for people who, I don't even know why I was doing some of those things, except for the reason that they told me to. And so
you thought it would advance you, right? And you trusted them.
I trusted them. And the ultimate result of this whole thing was that, in fact, in one instance, my business partner for a few years ended up kind of taking control of Spirit Science and kicking me out and saying, I am the creator, not me, but that person said they were the creator of Spirit Science. I was only ever an animator for them, and that they were going to, do Spirit Science, make it, and everything like that. And then they drove it into the ground, like really hard. Like the Facebook page, actually, they started putting out tons of spam, and got the page deactivated by Facebook because it was reported so many times, and just like a lot of little dramas and stuff like that. Like we ended up eventually getting the Facebook page back. I never got my old website back, but we made a new one, and just like things like that.
So what were the things that you cherished out of those challenges? What's the pearl?
Yeah, the pearl was that as a result of going through that, I learned that I have to step into a more full experience of life and of the business side of things, because it wasn't going to get where I wanted it to go if I kept letting other people make decisions for me. So I had to like make a company and say, I'm the CEO of the company, and I'm going to make like I'm going to have to be at the top of this food chain, if that's a correct terminology to use, in order to see this thing grow and thrive in the best possible way.
So you really saw
and,
that,
and that ultimately led to me really that's like stepping into my power and my authority. Yeah.
I see.
And so that, I mean, that's the pearl, I would say, is like I'm in a much better position now because now I'm significantly more involved in everything that goes on, and I have an authoritative say in all of it. Also, I just want to acknowledge it just started raining. I don't know if you can pick up on the background, but it is.
I can hear it. It sounds. I mean, I thought maybe it was a static, but now I know it's rain. That's cool.
It's definitely rain. Yeah.
And you're in Vancouver? No.
No, I'm in the mountains.
You're in the mountains in Banff, near Banff, right?
Near Banff. Yeah.
Okay. I'm so excited to find out more about that. But so I love the way that the spiritual principle here is that all adversity, every challenge, every obstacle that we face is perfectly designed for us. Like if I had your problems, I'd have them for like 5 minutes and be like, oh, I wish I had my old problems back, because they're designed for you. And my problems are designed for me, my challenges, right? So this challenge specifically designed for you might have appeared to be something negative. Wow, that is loud. It's really coming in loud now.
Curious, your audio just cut out for me. I don't know if that's just on my end though.
Okay.
Oh no, okay, we're back.
Yeah, there was something happened with the audio, but the principle here is that our obstacles and challenges are designed specifically for us, and yours were designed to help you, to elicit, to call forth that stepping into your own authority, stepping into your own power and creativity and self-expression, right? All of that pulled that out. That's a beautiful, beautiful pearl. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I want to know what you're reading. What are you currently reading?
Oh, geez. Okay. That's a big question because I literally have like 50 books on my nightstand.
Let me back up there. Before you go to that, let me ask you, how many, are you currently reading 50 books, or what's your reading practice? Do you have an intentional practice, like a set time aside, or is it just something that you, I feel like reading now, I'm going to read? I try
and read for at least like an hour a day, or that's kind of what I aim for. And sometimes more, sometimes less. Sometimes I'll go through a week and I'll miss a few days, and then on the weekend I'll just sit on the couch for a whole afternoon and just go through a big book. So right now, I'm like halfway through The Women Who Run with the Wolves, as well as
I know them.
Yeah, yeah, they're great.
I know a few of those.
As well as The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton.
Mm-hmm.
Although I did the audiobook of both of those already, but they were like condensed versions, so they were only like 3 hours each, whereas the books are like 8, 9, 10-hour experiences. And let's see, I also have Outwitting the Devil, because a lot of people keep telling me that I should read that one by Napoleon Hill. So that one's on the list too. But yeah, I mean, as far as my immediate, what I'm going through, I want to finish those before I pick up more.
Yeah.
But I do have, I kind of keep adding more faster than I can read them. So I just ordered, or they just arrived last week, the God Code and the Wisdom Codes from...
is that Greg Braden?
Oh shoot, what's his name? Greg Braden,
Yeah,
yeah. So I have those ones which were recommended from like YouTube comments, and I added those to my list, and yeah, it's just an ever going process.
yeah. I love
Yeah,
books. I love the, as you can tell, this is like one of my bookcases, but there's something different about the tactile experience of a book, you know, and I can imagine that there'll be a time when they'll be really hard to come by. You know, I'm just thinking of any post-apocalyptic post-apocalyptic film that we've seen. It's always like, ooh, a book, like that rare thing. I'm just so I so love the tactile experience of a book, and I'm glad to know your reading practice because that helps me.
yeah.
um, okay, so a couple more. So I want to know also, um, you being, you know, like Patch and the whole cartoon expression, the graphic expression of you. Um, I want to know what your superpower is. What's Jordan Rivers' superpower?
My superpower. I don't. I mean, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that people. Well, this is what people have told me is that through spirit science, I'm very good at taking very elaborate or advanced concepts and explaining them very simply. Although nowadays, I have a whole animation and writing team, so it's not just me. It's like I'm, collaborating with all these people. So that it was just something that was started with spirit science, but now it's more people, or started with me, I guess. But what I really am fascinated with is the subject of superpowers, as far as that goes, is that there's like occasional strange or interesting videos that you find on YouTube of people with quote unquote like super normal abilities, or like actually like kind of superpowers. One example is there's a qigong master, a video of a qigong master from many years ago who has a ball of newspaper on the ground, and he just puts his hand on it and he starts concentrating, and then it like catches fire. It starts smoking, and then it catches fire, and he's like, yeah, it's just chi. I just channeled my. And then there's also an even more mysterious one that a lot of people might say that it's fake, but it's weird that it was actually on the Russian news. Like, this is how I found out about it. It was that in Russia, like probably 10 years ago or something, there was this video of a guy. He just filmed it with like a, probably a flip phone at the time, but of this, he was walking through the woods with his dog, and then there's this woman on the ground and a little girl floating in the air, and she's just like levitating and hovering and kind of doing tricks and stuff, and the guy goes, hey, what's up, and then they go, oh crap, and she drops to the ground and they run off. And if this was fake, I mean, that would be one thing, but it was covered on the news, which is very interesting because normally things like that, probably if it didn't have some air of authenticity, might not make it that far. So I'm really interested in like that kind of phenomenon. Like if it really is possible, especially like going to like biology of belief and this kind of stuff, you know, the belief in something affects the ways that your cells, that your DNA, the proteins in your body, the way that they react and shape and change your life. Like even age, the process of aging, biologically has to do with your telomeres in your DNA getting shorter. Yet we also can lengthen our telomeres, and so we can live so much longer than we think, right? Potentially perpetually with the right practice. And this is what's described by a lot of the ancient philosophies and teachings and religions from Egypt to even in the Bible, right? So my question then is like, if it is possible to, through belief, through spiritual practice, through discipline, to attain some of these powers, to light paper on fire, to levitate, or to do things like this, like, how might we do it? And that's sort of this, that's part of this question that's built into Spirit Mysteries, is like, if it's possible to learn how to do some of these things like that, well, we'd like to try. We'd like to engage with ourselves on this level and reach that point. And I think like plant medicine is actually probably a big part of it, because I've had an experience. This is something I'm only now just starting to open up about more publicly. But it was the second time I went to Rhythmia. We're well on our way into the ceremony, It was a second night, so it was Brad's medicine. And I remember going outside, being guided by a firefly to go outside, and I sat down on the grass, and this like sage kind of appeared to me in the astral, and he was like, fly right now, you can do it. And I was like, excuse me, I don't know how. And he's like, no, you can physically fly. I'm like, okay, can you help me? And he's like, well, keep working on it, I'll be back, and then he disappeared. And since then, I've had a lot of visions of seeing like this future of humanity where we can actually like, go through these like DNA activations of becoming like X-Men, like mutants. We all have like different abilities based on our biology and our spiritual work and everything like that. And I don't know exactly how to do that, or if will be possible in this lifetime. And I'm striving to ask those questions and figure it out if possible. But as far as superpowers go, I'd like to say sky's the limit. It just takes the effort.
I have to say that now, what I love about spirit science is that it is the explanation, the connection between, how science, which Joe Dispenza says science is the modern language of mysticism. And I really like that, right? It's the one language we can all agree upon discussing things that are unseen, right? This is the language that we can agree upon discussing those elements. And now that quantum physics is bringing forth so much of what the ancient sages have said, I then look to Jesus. Actually, I have to say, Jesus is just all right with me. If you really look at the true sayings of Jesus, and in the ecstatic declaration, I believe it was in the Garden of Gethsemane, he said, "I and the Father are one. It is not I, but the Father within that does the work." Now, the nomenclature of Father and the pronoun of God at that time, I think, was an aspect of the level of consciousness. However, that declaration, I think, is a metaphysical cone, right? Like Cohen, like it is. If we could, each one of us, realize to such a degree our oneness with the universal presence, then we too, because he also said, ye too shall do greater things than these, right? Then we too could walk on water and heal the sick and raise the dead and make many out of few. And I firmly believe that is an aspect of that all those superpowers are ours. Have you read the autobiography of a yogi?
Oh, that's also on my list.
Okay, have to.
Yeah.
And in that, Paramahansa Yogananda is talking about this. Also, certain people, like this one guy who had this amazing connection with spirit, but he used it to create scents, like aromas. So you could be like, I'd love to smell jasmine. And he'd be like, boom, there's jasmine. And you'd be like, oh my God. But that was the limit of what he could do, right? So it's like, if you want to use all the power of spirit to like channel your chi and light some paper on fire, cool. But there's a little bit more you can do, right? So it's like, what is available to us, I believe, is only limited by our deep realization of oneness. Period.
I agree.
So our superpowers, oneness.
Oneness. That's a thing to strive for. No, I'm happy you brought up Jesus as well, because that I didn't mention it him in my previous what I said, but I think that's another really good source of potential evidence for the ability for us to be able to learn how to do these things. Is not only did he do those things, but he also said straight up, anything I can do, you can do better.
You can do better. He was quoting a musical from the 50s. We didn't even know it. All right, we are almost out of time.
What?
Not that like there's any such thing as time, right? Time doesn't exist. But
I feel like we started.
I know, right? Well, that's the way it always is. That's why I love you, man. But I want to ask you, if I don't know if I should keep saying it this way, but the saying is, never judge another person until you walk a mile in their shoes. And once you've walked a mile in their shoes, remember, you're a mile away and you have their shoes. So I'll ask you,
That's really funny. I like that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, I like that too. I'll ask you, if you were in my shoes, what is the one question that you would ask that I didn't ask? Or what's a question that you would ask that I haven't asked?
That's a hard one. That's weird because I feel like I'm an open book, but it's like, the book doesn't choose which page to open it to. So,
Or what would you like to share? What's something that you'd like somebody to know, like us to know, that we might not know or that we didn't get to talk about today?
Okay. Let's see what comes through here. Well, I think people sometimes, they have the tendency, or we are conditioned to kind of have this tendency of looking out into society and seeing people who are doing big things, or celebrities, or famous people in some way, right? And then seeing them as being so distant, from them and where they are, and people might think, oh, I could never do that. I'm only this person or whatever. And I feel like, I know that it's been a while since I made spirit science, but even when I started spirit science, and even today, like, I'm just another guy who was really, I'm a guy who was really passionate about some things, and then just took action towards it. And everything that you're seeing now that I've created, and what my team is creating with me and everything, is the result of years and years of just growth on that same path, right? Like, there's actually a quote, it's on my calendar right now, that's right over there. It's basically says, success is committing to one idea over time. And so, we probably have the potential to become very scattered, and very, like, lost in the many different directions that we could go. But if we find something, for anybody listening, if you find something that you're really passionate about and you're very committed to it, like, don't be afraid to take steps in that direction, and have faith that the universe is going to support you on that journey of seeing it to become actualized. And know that even for myself, I've been through some crazy hardships along this journey, but as we've discussed, right, it's all a part of the learning process that got us there, or got me where I am right now. And I mean, growing up, I was, the quiet kid in the classroom who I feel like I got bullied a lot, and, just felt very isolated, didn't have so many friends. And I think that's like a story that a lot of people can relate with. And, for people to feel like, you're not alone. There's a lot that you can do in this life. All that's required is, believe in yourself just enough to take some steps in that direction, and that, like, confidence will grow as you go. And if you're not happy with your life circumstance, or you're not happy with where things are at for you, you can change it. You can actually change every aspect of your life. There's a very common passage in a book that I recently finished called The Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. It's
oh my God, I'm reading that right now.
You are?
I'm reading it right now, but I stopped at like the fourth chapter. I was like, oh, this is so depressing right now. I don't want to read it.
It's really intense, but I love Octavia Butler's work. She's really amazing. Actually, after
you're done, finish it now that I'd actually put it down.
So after that one, if you ever finish, she's got one called Seed to Harvest, and it goes in the direction of, like, it's like a story of humanity from ancient Egypt into the distant future, where everyone is super telepathic, and how we got there. It's a really cool story, but like, and that's 4 books. That starts with Wild Seed and ends with Pattern Master. But anyway, in Parable of the Sower, if you do finish, it is.
I will now. I'll definitely finish it now.
It's really good. But it can be painful at times, I guess, for sure. But in the Parable of the Sower, there's this common idea. The main character, she keeps having this understanding of reality that's different from everyone else, because there's a lot of, like, just orthodox kind of Christians or whatever. But she perceives that God is change, and that, like, right, change is this universal constant. God is change, and that you can either choose to adapt to change and then become a changer yourself, like change the reality around you and strive for better change, or you can become, quote unquote, God's plaything, and that you can be tossed around by change and tossed around by, things happen to you. Oh no, it's terrible. Instead of like, things are happening, and like, how can I be a part of this to change it into something else? And the reason that I brought that up is because it's like, yeah, anything that's in your life that you don't like can be changed. And it's really a matter of being able to change yourself, being able to be malleable within your existence by the awareness that you are this, supreme light that is moving through you. But you are not your personality or the way that you identify yourself or your attachments or your addictions.
Speak it, brother.
So, I mean, that's pretty much what I would probably say is like, there is there's an infinite potential within each one of us. Yes. And all we have to do is be willing to embrace that and, dissolve the rest of the ego that, we often find ourselves stuck to through life circumstances and stuff like that.
So beautifully said. There is infinite potential within each one of us. And I'm just, what a great note to end on, that each person that we come into contact with is like an undiscovered country. All they're bristling. Each moment is bright with infinite possibility and potential. How beautiful. What a great message. Thank you so much. So much. And it's such a pleasure. So appreciate your time and graciousness and just who you are in the world. And that I get to call you my friend is super cool too. So thank you. Thank you, brother. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us. And thank you so much for checking in. We will be, Jerry's doing his Facebook Live tomorrow at 9 o'clock Pacific time. And then I'm back on Thursday for Walking the Path. And then we'll be back here next Monday, every Monday, 1 o'clock Pacific time for Rise Up, Evolutionary Conversations from the Emerging Paradigm. Thank you, Jordan River from Spirit Science. Oh, wait, and Spirit Science. Oh, you just like look anywhere. You can't swing a... Never mind. I was going to do that old saying, can't swing a dead cat without hitting Spirit Science somewhere, but that just didn't seem appropriate. So... me and my old-timey sayings might not be right. But Spirit Science is ubiquitous, is what I'm trying to say. And check it out on YouTube. The website, spiritscience.com.net. There's also Facebook.
Spirit Science Central.
I'm sorry?
Spirit Science Central.
Central, that's right. Spirit Science Central. And such amazing, beautiful, beautiful work for you to... There's a plethora of great things to check out that Jordan's created. So thank you again. Peace and blessings, everyone.